Hello and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and I hope you're all having a great week. Today we're going to talk about something very topical in the news. You know, there's been recent articles with this term coined Meno-Divorce. It's a phenomenon amongst middle-aged women where the divorce rates are increasing due to perimenopause and menopause. I definitely wanted to explore the phenomenon with a trusted colleague and friend because you've got soon to be Dr. Jeanette Williams joining me today about this phenomenon. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and the clinical director of Deeper Change, which is right here in New Jersey. And it's so great to have Jeanette here. We've known each other it feels like forever, but she'll tell us how many years it's been. Right, Jeanette? How many years has it been? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think it's been since 2020, 2021.
Is that when you started the doctoral program?
Yeah.
See, but I feel like I knew you before that, even though we didn't.
I know. It feels that way. It feels like I've known you for many more years.
It does. It does. It's like as if.
Does.
But how did we? So we first met because you came into the organizational psychology doctoral program. That's why I can say soon to be Dr. Jeanette, because I am on her dissertation committee.
Yes.
And I am so excited to watch her grow. And she's been amazing in the classroom, but also as like a friend and colleague and practitioner and just a real grounded human being. So when our producer was like, we need to talk about this Meno-Divorce, I was like, I got the person. And that was you.
Yeah. It's fast. Thank you so much for having me. It's fascinating because menopause and perimenopause are very interesting.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of research has shown that it's not gotten the attention that it really deserves,
Yeah.
you know? And we're at a really critical time in terms of women, right?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean by that? I think I know what you mean, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, things have shifted.
Yeah.
Technology allows women to work in different places.
Yeah.
You could have a profession and you're in California and you're seeing people or you're servicing people all around the world.
That's right.
And COVID impacted that as well. So there's a degree of
Yes.
freedom that
Yeah.
women have now that they've never had. That's number
Yeah.
one if we were to bring it current. But even, if we were to think back 50 years ago, women's choices were far less. And so
Yeah.
women's opportunities, the things that they can do, where they can go,
Mm-hmm.
it has just broadened.
Well, and if someone's listening and not watching, you're also a Black woman,
I
and
am.
so
Hmm.
yeah, and so I think also changes in that regard as far as sociocultural sort of challenges in this world that we're living in. And I guess I'm hate to put you on the spot with this stat as a professor of yours, but like, are there differences in white versus Black women in some of these Meno-Divorce stuff?
It's interesting because I have not seen the statistics on that. So we would
Okay.
really need to look at that more.
Yeah.
However, I would say it's across the board because I'm
Hmm.
seeing women of all nationalities
Right.
taking a greater stance around their freedom. And
Yes.
what's happening with menopause and perimenopause, women's tolerance levels are not as high as they used to be. That's just the reality. So,
Yeah.
there are degrees of sensitivity and irritability, and there's quite a few articles out about this. But the tolerance level that a woman may have during this period is a little bit lower than
Yes.
what it would have been maybe when they first entered their marriage. And then you have a lot of other, like, what we call life cycle changes taking place at that time, right?
Yes.
So you may
Yes.
have children going into high school, or you may have children going into college. So you're
Mm.
launching your children. You have
Hmm.
to kind of reassess what this marriage is going to look like, in
Right.
addition to going through menopausal symptoms, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a basket of just frills. You're going to read articles out right now about women who really found themselves. They feel freer and lighter
Yes.
than ever. And
Hmm.
then you're going to read about women who have and hear about women who have just really gone down the rabbit hole. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
interesting.
it is interesting, and I did find an article from Women's Midlife Health. So this was published in 2022 that said that Black women enter menopause about 8.5 months earlier when compared to white women. So just here we are, as if we
Fascinating,
had,
right?
as right. I mean, and I'm sure there's lots of different research around cortisol, stress, prejudice, all the experiences that kind of lead to maybe some of those physical health symptoms, because we know stress has significant physical health issues. But today we're going to talk about marriage. So we're not going to go into the biology of menopause, but as a licensed marriage and family therapist, which you were when we met, and you trusted me to go into take this journey to get this doctorate, which I'm very thankful that you trusted me in this, and I believed wholeheartedly in you. And of course, there's been lots of bumps in the road because there's always bumps in the road, but certainly there's been some bigger potholes maybe that we anticipated. But from your LMFT world, you practice holistic humanistic therapy. So tell us how you got into this field.
Well, it's interesting because I transition like many of the clinicians that I supervise. So I am also an AAMFT
Hmm.
approved supervisor, and I mentor clinicians into licensure, which
Nice.
I love doing.
Yeah.
And so, but I came into the field older, which quite a few people who come into the field older. So I went back to school, went to Seton Hall actually, and
We had that in common.
yeah, yeah, and applied for their MFT program. It's
Hmm.
interesting because I didn't know why I fell into the field until after I
Okay.
started the program, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a joke, right? There's no coincidence that we fall into these niche areas.
Right.
And so obviously, LMFT or licensed marriage and family therapy is really about systemic work and about
It is.
intergenerational
Yes.
dynamics.
Yes.
And so while you're going through this work, going through your training, you're going to actually confront your own intergenerational
Yes.
issues, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so that's really, in hindsight, why I fell into
Mm.
the field, right?
Yeah.
Was actually in some quest of healing my own intergenerational
Isn't that beautiful?
challenges.
You missed this week's research team meeting where one of your research team brothers, we started to like actually build that into the research question around athletes, black athletes, like looking at intergenerational trauma, and so I just had,
Interesting.
yeah. So I
I
that it's
want to
very
catch up
relevant.
on that one.
I know. Well, you will, and that's
Yeah,
obviously at the core of what you do. It's exactly what you're saying, and it's the trauma is so it's like almost watered down the way people use the word, but really how significantly it impacts us. And I love that you said that it was it just found you, and then you realize you had to do the work. But
right,
you and I believe in
right,
sort of the energy that probably led you to that. Yeah.
correct. So it's fascinating because, at this point, I've worked with, we can probably get into the 1,000 mark based
Right.
on the supervision that I give.
Right.
And there are some themes that run
Hmm.
through many couples, no matter the nationality. This
What are they?
surpasses race. Oh, I mean, where do we start? I mean, it's a joke, right? I have this philosophy. I'll tell a couple, nothing new really shows up in the room. And so I'll say, give me a number one, give me a number four, give me a number eight.
Yeah.
And someone finally asked me, what do you mean? I said, those are fast food choices, right?
Right.
Because you're going to see the same thing
Yeah.
repeating over and over again.
That's right.
One of the big themes that shows up in the room between couples is what is classic, what we call Bowenian
Okay.
behavior, which
Hmm.
is an overfunctioner and
Yeah.
an underfunctioner.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. I have one of my clinicians doing a workshop right now. And, one of the things that came out of this workshop she shared with me, I had heard it before, but it brought it back for me that it's just as irresponsible to be an underfunctioner as it is to be an
That's
overfunctioner.
exactly right. Yes.
Right. So there's this balancing act that we
Yeah.
find that we have to do in the room with couples, because when you have an overfunctioner, sometimes you either get comfortable with
Right.
being the underfunctioner,
Yeah.
or you become resentful,
Mm.
one or the other.
Well, I always said that that was yin and yang. Like you can't. I don't. Can two over functioners be married successfully?
You're right, is it is about yin and yang, but we're
Yeah.
talking about overfunctioners to the point where it's unhealthy. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
the yin and yang imbalance where we have like a 60-40, 50
Yeah.
50 dynamic. That's not what I'm referring to. Because if you
Okay.
look at the yin and yang symbol, it's equally
It's balanced.
balanced.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I'm talking about a gross imbalance,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it
And
shows up
then
in all. Go ahead.
the over functioner then is like trying to fix the under functioner, or does the over functioner just go on and the under functioner just is there in the wake?
Well, the overfunction, it could show up in a myriad of ways. You know,
Yeah.
we could have an overfunctioner who's hypervigilant, who's a wife per se. Let's just say it's the woman that's, on top of the husband. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Serious, this is real
I know.
stuff,
Of course
right?
it is. Yes.
And then you want to find out where this overfunctioning is coming from. This is where the
Uh,
intergenerational stuff comes in, right?
that's right. Yes.
Okay, so what's making you overfunction? Where did you learn this behavior?
Yeah. Wait, so
And so,
when did you yeah, so when did you begin this practice? So deeper change. When did you begin that?
well, the actual practice of deeper change has been open since 2018.
Okay.
Okay, but the actual practice of me doing marriage and family work, I probably started as soon as I started my program. So
Right.
I'd say around 2012, 2013, I started actually the application of this work.
So you said you see diverse clients, but like what would be a tip of is it all couples? Or like is it
No, 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 no,
no.
no. We work with a lot of individuals. We work with couples. We work with families. We work with
Yeah.
children. I would say about 50 because we're a marriage and family therapy group.
Right.
And because I have quite a few MFTs on staff, we get a lot of couples.
Yeah.
And you know how it works. It's like word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, and
And
especially you've seen the increase since COVID with couples.
we saw an immediate increase in therapy, period, after
Yeah.
COVID.
Because we
I
saw
mean,
couples, because we don't see couples like you all do, but like we noticed that there was a real increase in couples looking for support.
right. I would say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
There's been an increase overall, of people
Thank goodness
seeking
that there's
help.
people like you out there, for that work because it is really challenging. I always, when I teach this or training, the way I was trained was that, couples counseling is not to fix the relationship necessarily.
That's
It could
correct.
also be about helping a couple realize that they should split up. Would you take that same position on that?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
couples
it's important for
therapy.
listeners, right? Like, because
Yeah,
don't you think people come to couples being like, fix me, fix us?
well, and I tell couples, we tell couples from the door, there's no magic wand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no magic wand. And, you could have a couple come through and they're in crisis and they may think that you're going to fix their crisis in that one session. And
Yeah.
because of the work that we do in terms of really the systemic searching and intergenerational searching, there's just no way that would ever happen, you
Yeah.
know? So it's
Yeah.
important
No.
that you know what is it's important that you kind of have some insight into what has taken place with the couple prior to therapy
Get
and
at the
prior to
core
their
of
marriage. Yeah.
prior to the marriage. Oh, right, yeah. So get at the core of some of that stuff. So,
Mm.
we've said intergenerational a lot. I wonder if we should define that for listeners.
Right. So intergenerational, I would say, is your family line. Like when you think of your family tree, right? So your mother, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your children, your grandparents, in terms of looking at what has occurred through those family lines, right?
Right,
What
exactly.
has
And it's
taken place.
and
Yeah.
so some of the stuff could be transmitted or behaviorally kind of transmitted from one generation to the next, right?
It could be transmitted. So there are a number of things, right? So we talk about loyalty, and this is
Hmm.
all contextual language, loyalty to a behavior.
Right.
Because I saw my mother clean frenetically, I'm going to
Yeah.
do the same thing, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's one thing, a behavioral thing. But then we can even think of epigenetics, right? And epigenetics is
Mm,
this dynamic of things being passed down through the
Mm-hmm.
DNA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And some research has shown that things can be passed down through 8 generations,
It's wild.
right? So some
Yeah.
behaviors you may not even understand,
Yeah.
but from an epigenetic perspective, that may be why the behavior is showing up
It's
today.
wild. That's
It's,
so
I know,
wild.
I
Yeah.
know.
So, what is Meno-Divorce? What exactly is it?
So Meno-Divorce is this phenomena. We come up with these new terms, right? But Meno-Divorce is this phenomena that's happening right now where couples are divorcing during the woman experiencing menopause.
Interesting.
And essentially, the couple not being able to reconcile things during that time,
Yeah.
where it ends up in divorce. And even to take it even further, because, when we're saying Meno-Divorce, it's not because Meno is associated with a woman, not a man, right?
Right. Right.
And so it's like a woman making the decision based on her feelings at that particular time, her menopausal symptoms having taken over, that the marriage no longer works for her,
Yeah.
and she's moving on.
Yeah. I mean, so any life change can kind of lead to that. And so I guess women maybe have more clarity or courage, some of that hormonal change to leave an unsatisfactory relationship. I mean, even just to say that, it's not, listeners, it's not like all relationships are not perfect. There's going to be ups and downs, and it does take work. Because I've had people saying, well, if it's this much work, maybe it's not the right relationship. And that's not, in my opinion, not enough of a gauge or barometer. It's like they do take work. But have you seen Meno-Divorce in your practice with the women that you work with?
I've seen symptoms.
Okay.
Usually what happens, I'll be honest with you, Dr. Pete, is that couples usually don't make it to that point. We have successfully worked couples through a divorce, but
Yes.
it's more rare than not.
Okay.
Um, Couples will usually opt out of therapy. They'll just leave therapy. So you may not know. You don't have an end game to this. You don't have the data, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What I will say to you is that symptoms occur, right? We'll
Mm,
have couples come in and the woman is experiencing menopausal symptoms and it's causing a rift between them.
got it.
And then there's like some psychoeducation that needs to take place at that point, right? And some understanding, some buzzwords for the couple to create between the two of them if she's feeling a certain way, or if he or she is feeling a certain way in that particular unit, that they work these things out through conversation,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
communication is everything.
Now that's going to sound so cliche, but it really it's pretty simple.
It sounds simple. It's harder to apply,
It is
right?
hard to apply. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this takes patience and it does take work.
I had a client recently say, well, I thought you're not supposed to go to bed angry. And I was like, okay, there's some truth to that. But if you have OCD and you're a perfectionist, you have to go to bed with some things unresolved because, right?
That is true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So it could be okay to put your head on the pillow with a little bit of an argument going on.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not the ideal. You want to sleep well.
You do want to
It's
sleep
not
well.
the ideal.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to talk about some interesting stats. So the National Center for Family and Marriage Research, they report that overall divorce rates are dropping. So they're
That's correct.
decreasing. So we're seeing an increase maybe in couples coming to counseling, but there's a drop in divorce. However, among adults 50 and over, it's increasing. So in 1990, 1 in 10 divorces in the United States were adults 50 and over. Just recently, that's grown to 1 in 4. So that might coincide with the time that most women are going through perimenopause and menopause. So what are your
That's
thoughts on that?
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. It's interesting. I'm going to go back to where I started earlier around trends and
Yeah.
times, that women of a certain age at this point in time have more options. They
Like
have more
meaning
options.
2025, right? Like the
That's
world.
correct.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. They have more options. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, 50 years ago, I had to stay because I didn't have my own money. I didn't have
That's
my own
right.
money.
That's right. Well, I also
Right?
didn't have like social media where I could find like an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend.
Oh, all of that, right? That's terrible, but it's true.
It is
Social media has played a huge
yeah,
role in this on multiple
for
levels.
sure. Yeah.
Reconnecting with someone that you may have had a lost love for, the
Yes.
opportunity of that.
Yeah.
You have your own income at this
Yeah.
point. Your career options have expanded.
That's right.
You have friends that have moved away. They're like, "Oh, come, I'm in Greece now.
Yeah.
It's
Come visit.
cheaper." I'm serious. This is real stuff.
I believe. No, I know.
This is what's happening. And so women are picking up and they're
Yeah.
reinventing themselves.
Isn't that
And
beautiful?
also remember that we are still in this period of it being okay to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
So this
So
is the other thing.
yeah, I love that, and I just what a thought that just came to mind is that we're speaking very heteronormatively, so we are speaking of and sort of gender stereotypically.
We are. We
I
are.
and so I want to just name that because then I also that this episode is about this group. You know, we're not doing an episode on LGBTQ couples
Correct.
or anything like that nature because that would probably be that could be its own episode and maybe that'll
It
be a part.
is. It is.
Okay, so we'll do
There's a whole narrative there as well.
so we'll do that one later. All right, so
Yes.
hold up. So do you think women because they're going through so we're focusing on women also because of menopause so biological
That's correct.
right so that's something that we're going to say so do you think that they should make choices like this with this hormonal shift going on during perimenopause or menopause?
Isn't that an interesting question?
Yeah.
So some of the things that, you know, we're fine. Well, and these are even some of the suggestions that I put out, and you would
Okay.
be in alignment with this, is really slowing down
Yes.
before you make any rash decisions, right?
Yes.
So this is allowing yourself to really engage in meditation, really take yourself off of social media, take yourself down, right?
Yeah.
Really ground yourself. Don't make rash decisions because
That's
this
right.
stuff really has to be, because it's life changing, right?
Yeah.
You can make a decision, oh, I'm going to move to Spain, but
Yeah.
have you really thought it out, right? So that's some of the, you know, the advice that we provide clients with and some of the information.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you ground yourself? How can you be more mindful
Yeah.
and bring your system down and relax it? Because that's ultimately what helps see some of these couples through.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to just slow down. One, because I find that people think that the grass is greener on the other side. And so
Correct.
I remember I had a client once who was talking about dating and she just paused and she looked at me and she said, "What are you thinking?" And I said, "I'm just thankful I don't have to date right now." Like I was just that radically genuine because I was like, this is really hard. Like, you know, all this stuff with the, you know, so I think to your point, like, and I love that you're bringing this up. It's really significant to the time that we're living in technology, independence and autonomy, which is all beautiful stuff. And this time, and I think also the geographic makes it that way. So we practice in this New York metropolitan area where people are a lot of overachieving is the baseline in some ways. Right. So I've, especially the athletes I work with, they're like, I want the best marriage ever. I'm like, how about just a healthy one?
True that. True that. Just a healthy one.
That's it. I don't even know what best is, but just be healthy.
I know. What does that even mean? You know,
Well, you
it's
know.
such a subjective statement. You know, and that's where I would go with them. What does best mean for you?
Exactly. Yes. So to define that. So listeners, like if you're thinking about that, just define what even that means. So another hot topic that came out of this Meno-Divorce is a quote, "We do not care club." Have you seen this?
I haven't seen that one. Tell me more.
I don't. Well, I think it's from an influencer, Melanie Sanders, started this club that celebrates women who have stopped trying to please everyone. So, yeah, does it, so I like. So again, we're thinking that is gender stereotypical. I recognize that, but to your point, 50 years ago, I think women would stay. I think there's going to be listeners who would say they should stay. But I also think this "We Do Not Care" club is saying you don't have to please everyone. Do you?
Right. And again, if we were to go back 50 years, and I don't want to, you know, I'm thinking about times, right? If it's 50, 75 years, whatever, this is this time frame in terms of people aging and shifting their lifestyle. You know, I hate to say these things, but it's true. Women were encouraged to make sure they looked a certain way. They had to look a certain way to catch a husband. You know, they had to do certain things to keep a husband. all of these narratives. So I'm assuming
Yeah.
that this We Don't Care Club has something
Yeah.
to do with that.
I think that's a
That we're
safe
not
assumption.
caring anymore. We're doing us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
that what comes to mind when you said that is, so my mom's mom actually, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather was an alcoholic,
Hmm.
and she kicked him out of the house in the 50s. So when my mom was like 3 years old, she didn't, which no one did that then.
Right.
No one did that then, and
Right.
so
You grinned and bore it. You
you just
dealt with
grinned and
it.
bore it. But she kicked her out,
Right.
which my mom always resented her mom for that. But then I did the ancestry.com and I found two other sisters of my mom's that
Oh my
when
goodness.
he left, he went and found another lady and he had two other daughters. And it was a really interesting thing because they were able to confirm, this alcoholism. And then it gave my mom some peace to be like, okay, like my mom did something to protect me, you
That's
know,
correct. It changed the narrative for you. There
it,
we go.
there,
This is the intergenerational tracking.
there it is.
So, and just to go back to it really briefly,
Yeah.
there's this dynamic of knowing and understanding, right?
Yes.
This knowing and understanding that gets you to acceptance, that
Hmm.
then gets you to this point of forgiveness and empathy.
I love
It's
that.
really profound.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not holding on to the energy of it or the power that it kind of
Yeah,
has over you. Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah. How so this, for listener, as you're soon to be Dr. Jeanette Williams, how have you, because you have all this life experience, you've have thousands of couples, like how do you think, honestly, like this doctoral training, has it had any kind of impact on the way that you think about systems or
Oh, majorly,
yeah.
majorly.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I think has really come out of it for me is really assessing where someone is in the relationship and
Mm.
who they are, right?
Yes.
So it's, if someone is, and it's also about capacity, right? This understanding of capacity with the person.
Yes.
Does the person have capacity to do what you're seeking him or her to do,
Yeah.
right? And just opening that dynamic up in
I think what
terms
you're
of
saying there is
this.
like sometimes people fall in love with the potential of somebody, rather than what they actually are or the capacity of what they could be. That's
Mhm.
what I'm hearing. Is that sort of what you're saying, or
That is correct.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
correct. And or the capacity of what that person can actually do or achieve. Like we all have our own
right,
capacity. Some people's capacity, and it's even hard to even judge what that is because we're all uniquely different.
yeah,
Um, but that's one of the things that we'll find in the room is
yeah,
that a person may not have the capacity that the person expects them to have. And
mm,
then how do you negotiate that within that system
yes,
so things are harmonious, right?
harmony. Isn't that nice?
Harmony.
You and I always had harmony.
We've always had harmony. We've
we
always had harmony.
we always. So, what would be some other like tips that you would share or last minute advice for women who may be going through this major life transition? What would you
Right.
say to them?
I would say definitely, check in with your doctor.
Hmm.
You want to check in to see if your hormone levels are way out of whack.
Yep.
There is treatment for that. Um, you want to have open communication with your partner
Hmm.
about how you're feeling,
Hmm.
and kind of stay in tune with your body if you're starting to feel symptoms of
Mm.
perimenopausal symptoms, and do your research.
I love
Do
that.
your research.
It's really, really good advice. I had one of my favorite general practitioners, a PCP, was Duke educated, and I was having an issue with my neck, and she said, acupuncture, and she said the only thing that cured my hot flashes and my menopause was acupuncture. Yeah, so that's actually where I was, and this was like 25 plus years ago. I was living in Jersey City at the time, and that was when I was first introduced to acupuncture. And so I also would encourage. I don't know if you refer to them at all, but I think for listeners, like the change that occurs at that time is really drastic and significant, and there are a lot of things like Jeanette said. I mean, certainly know your hormones, and hormone replacement therapy has been very effective at that level, but
Very
also
effective.
very, very effective. Yeah, yeah.
But also, what you said is naturalistic remedies and
Naturalistic.
homeopathic remedies, right? So
Yes.
a person can also treat this holistically as well.
Absolutely. And go see an LMFT.
And
You are a wealth of information, soon to be Dr. Jeanette Williams. So how can listeners find out about you and your practice, Deeper Change?
yeah, so they can go online and find us. We're also on Instagram under Deeper Change.
Mhm.
And then our website, obviously, we have a website, dcpgt.com. So that's the Deeper Change Personal Growth Therapy.com.
Nice.
And on that site, you can find a list of our clinicians that are with the practice and the
Nice.
group. We have 3 locations. We're located in South Plainfield, New Jersey, West Orange. So right now we're in Middlesex, we're in Essex, and then we also have a location in the city in Union Square. So
Lovely.
we're out there, and
We are out
we're
there.
ready to help people if they need it.
dcgpt.com. That will be in the show notes. Jeanette, it was such a pleasure to have you here. And
It was a
I,
pleasure to be here.
I can talk a lot. We know that, but
Hmm.
I appreciate your time. Thank you again. And
Absolutely.
for everyone listening at home, thank you. Your support means the world to us. And that's why we continue doing everything that we do here on Air with Dr. Pete. If you have any show ideas, or please like, follow, and share, everything's at officialdrpete.com. And I will see you back here next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.